Hi guys, Mr. Peluso here. This video lesson is on DNA, genes and chromosomes and their relationships together. The outcomes for this lesson, we're going to describe the DNA molecule and the fact that it contains over 1,000 genes. The fact that genetic material is found in the nucleus of cells. We're going to look at chromosomes and the fact that they're the structural component of the genetic material. So DNA carries thousands of genes. We're going to look at the fact that genes are functional parts of DNA, understand that genes are sections of DNA that code for proteins, and the fact that different combinations of nitrogenous bases are what make up the differences in genes. We're going to look at DNA and the fact that it's the chemical component. So the first diagram I want to talk you through is this one here, which my face is covering up a bit of. We're going to look at this structure here. Now, this is called a chromosome, okay? Now, we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail, but a chromosome is a lot of DNA that's bundled together, okay? We've got protein within this as well that's holding the DNA molecule, the chromosome together, okay? So this is what it looks like. It looks like an X. This is actually a replicated chromosome, which is going to be covered in a later lesson. Now, if I zoom in on a small section of that chromosome there, we've got this familiar structure. So this is your DNA. So this is the DNA molecule tightly wound together in the form of a chromosome. So a chromosome consists of tightly coiled and packed DNA. So we've got our double helix, our sugar phosphate backbone, and nitrogenous bases in the middle. Now, a section of that DNA molecule is referred to as a gene. Now, genes can contain up to thousands of bases. So adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine, okay? It depends on, the length of genes can differ, but we're talking at approximately 1,000 bases, okay? So here we've got one gene and here we've got a second gene, okay? Now, a gene codes for a specific or part of a specific or multiple genetic traits, okay? So genes are sections of DNA that code for a genetic trait. Now you might ask, what is a genetic trait? It's an aspect of a living thing, okay? The fact that I have 5 fingers. I think I do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There they are. That is a genetic trait, okay? The fact that my earlobes, I don't know if you want to zoom in on my ears or not, but these are unattached earlobes as opposed to attached earlobes, okay? The one I like to do with my class is to interlock your fingers, and then you see which index finger is on top. So mine is my right hand is on top, but for others it's their left. So that's a genetic trait as well. So a gene on our DNA is coding for that, okay, which is interesting. If you zoom in on these genes, okay, you've got the sequences of DNA. So the letters in order, A, C, C, T, A, G, A, C, T, G. Okay, so the fact that these are in that specific sequence, and there's more up here which my head's covering, that tells our bodies to do a specific thing. Okay, what it actually does is codes for a protein. The genetic code is, just like the name suggests, a code, and the body produces proteins, and those proteins carry out lots of different functions in our body, and they are what account for all of our genetic differences. Here we have a little baby, and this is a segue into the next section I want to talk about. So this is a living thing, okay? And this living thing is made up of billions of cells, and when it turns into an adult, it's going to be made of even more cells, okay? Billions of cells. What type of cells have you got? Look, there's heaps, but just a few basic ones. Brain cells, fat cells, little chubby baby, heart muscle cells, red blood cells, nerve cells, okay, which allow them to sense things. So there's lots of different types of cells there, okay. So where I'm going with this is just looking at the relationship between cells, genes, chromosomes, DNA. Here's a cell, okay. So these cells, billions of them working together, make a living thing, okay. Inside the nucleus of the cell, which is the control center of the cell, okay, so that's like the brain of a body. This is kind of where all the action happens. This is where all the decisions are made, okay? Inside the nucleus of the cell contains chromosomes. So you can see we've got a fair few chromosomes floating around here, okay? So here's a chromosome. Here's another little representation that chromosomes are made up of lots and lots of tightly coiled DNA. It kind of reminds me of those old telephone lines, but we can't even really imagine how much of this stuff is actually coiled up in here. There's so much, okay? If you unravel that, we've got our DNA. And remember, a section of DNA that codes for a specific genetic trait is referred to as a gene. So this is a good diagram. Another representation of pretty much the same thing, so I won't talk through this one as much. We've got our cell, which is a 3D representation this time. We've got our nucleus, which is here, and that contains chromosomes. If you zoom in on those chromosomes, we've got a few of them there. They look like X's. Like I said, they're double-stranded. We're going to go into that a bit more in another lesson. You zoom in on those chromosomes, and we've got, bam, our DNA molecule, okay? Sugar phosphate backbone, double helix in terms of its shape, nitrogenous bases, complementary base pairing, T, A, and G with C, Tim Allen, George Clooney, and a section of that DNA is referred to as a gene, okay? A few facts here. Each human cell has 46 chromosomes, 23 pairs of chromosomes a bit more accurately. Each cell has 2 meters of DNA. Now 2 meters of DNA times billions of cells equals billions and billions of meters, okay? Each cell has about 3 billion bases. So 3 billion of those letters, and each of those letters in a specific order make up genes, and that makes up our differences. That's why we're all so unique, because there's so many bases. Approximately 32,000 genes, which is pretty cool as well. So all those genes account for our differences. I'm just going to go down here. I'd like you guys to try and fill in this table in your books using the words structural, chemical, and functional in the table below. So pause the video, get this in your books, and we'll go through it in a tick. So let's see if we could fill in those words correctly. DNA is the chemical component of the genetic information in organisms, okay? Because it's comprised of chemical compounds. Sugar, phosphate, bases, nitrogenous bases, these are all chemical, okay? Genes are the functional component of genetic information in organisms because genes have a job. Their function is to code to make a protein which has a specific feature in the body which gives rise to our genetic differences. Chromosomes, therefore, are the structural component of genetic information in organisms. Chromosomes are DNA tightly packed together. It's like a storage system, okay? So if you're someone that's highly organized, so probably the opposite of me, you might have a filing cabinet with all of your information stored correctly, okay? Maybe on your computer, is all of your information on your computer organized into labeled folders? Or are you kind of like me who tries to do that but has a few things I like to make a folder that's just like sort or to do and just chuck everything in there. One day I'll fix it up. Chromosomes are really organized though. So it's all of your genes, all of your genetic information organized in a tight little package. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. Hope you learned something, and I will see you in class.